Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to do an effect like this, a kind of smoke effect. This works quite well on a portrait, especially a profile image, but you can do it on anything at all, any image, and experiment with that. So first thing that you're going to need is an image like this, preferably a portrait with a profile sort of angle and photographed against a fairly plain background. So we're going to make a new file initially, so File New, and if we make the size 16 centimetres by 12 centimetres by 300 pixels per inch on the resolution. Okay, we need to change that again to get it exactly right. Okay, so 16 by 12 by 300 per inch. So now back to our face image, and we're going to select the face using the quick selection tool. Okay, so I've got a brush of around a size 20 to work with. This will mean that it won't select the background too much. So if we click inside the head and just move towards the edges of the selection, it should, if the contrast between your background and your head is fairly good, then you should be able to do this fairly simply. Okay, now to the move tool, and then click and drag to take that into your untitled plain page. Okay, so what we now need to do is to convert this layer to a smart object. So we just go Control, click, and then convert to smart object. Going to bring this up a little bit so you can see the layers. Now we're going to make this slightly bigger, the head, so we need to go Command T to bring up the transform tool, and then click on Shift whilst dragging from the corner to maintain the proportions of the face and the head. Okay, now I'm going to flip horizontal, so I'm going to go Control, click inside the box, and then flip horizontal. Just find it easier to do the smoke coming out this way. Okay, and then if we want to rotate the face slightly, you can. So it's up to you as to how you want to start the image. And then just click the tick button there. So now we need to go back to the background layer, and on here we need to put a gradient adjustment layer. So we just come down to this little circle here and just click on gradient. Okay, and then come into here, click, select the third one along, which is black and white, then click on your small arrow here to bring up the colour picker, click on the colour picker, and then halfway down, about here, just click around 50%, and then OK, and that will give you a kind of grey to white gradient there. And then OK this box, and then on the next box, change linear to radial, change angle to 45, change scale to 180, and click reverse, and then OK. And we're ready with that gradient fill there then. So now we don't need this background layer anymore, so we're going to click on that and just drag that to the bin to get rid of that layer. Now back to layer 1, and what we're going to do with layer 1 is to copy that. So go Command J, it's the shortcut for copy, and then just click inside where it has the text, double click and delete that, and just type in the word liquefy. So you're going to use this layer later on, so we don't want to see it at the moment, so we're just going to click on the eye symbol there to get rid of that. Okay, now back to layer 1, and we're now going to put 2 adjustment layers on here, above here. So we come back down to this little circle, click on there and go to Gradient Map, okay, and then we're going to clip this to the layer below so that anything we do to this layer is also affected by this. So to do that we just go Control, click in there and create clipping mask. We're now going to do another adjustment layer, so click in the circle again, go to black and white, and again create clipping mask. Okay, And now we're going to go back to our layer 1, and this is where we're going to start actually using the brushes in a moment. But first of all, we've got to put a mask over this, so we want a black mask, so just hover over this rectangle here with the circle in it, and then click Alt click, and you'll see a black mask appears here, which will cover your image. Now we do want to see what we're doing, so we go to the density up here and just slide that across to about 70 so we can see what we're doing with our brushes. Okay, now during applying the brushes we might need to rotate the canvas, so to do that you just press R on the keyboard and then turn. Okay, so now we're going to select our brushes. Now hopefully you will have downloaded some smoke brushes from the internet, a free download onto Photoshop. So click in your brush tool here, bring up the brush menu by clicking into here, and I've already got my brush tool selected, but if you haven't, they should end up in brushes on that tab there, and it might look like this. It might appear in a folder, so if you click the arrow you should get your different brushes there, and you can just have a look at what roughly the shape of them is going to be like by doing this. Just hover over. So I might start with something like that one. Let's have another look. Yeah, I might start with 9. Okay, now that's a little bit big, so I'm going to reduce the size of that a touch, maybe a bit more than that. Okay, and then just close that box there. Now I'm going to rotate and just start by applying part of this brush to the bottom of the face here, and you'll see that it only applies it to the face because the background is we're not on that layer, so it's not going into the background as well. And then we'll just apply a few more brushes to that area. Now my example may not end up perfect, may not end up brilliant, because I'm going to rush this so that you can get on with it really and see the whole tutorial fairly quickly. But I recommend that you play around with different brushes. You know, don't just use the same one, vary it a little bit. Okay, so if we come back round, I'll maybe put another one just here. Okay, so now if we bring our density up, we can see what that's going to look like. You can see that the face is kind of starting to disappear, the features, so we might want to bring that back through. So go back up here to your brushes, click on the little arrow and just click on the folder that says General Brushes, here, and then try and find a soft round brush and make it around, say, 100 size. And then if you just kind of brush with that over the features, you should be able to bring back the eyes, nose, mouth, chin, etc., the areas that you want to see there. Okay. Right, so now next thing we need to do is to go to the liquify layer, so this one that we hid before, so we're going to reveal that one now, and we're going to apply these same 2 adjustments to this layer. So to do that in a simple way, all we do is click on the bottom one, the gradient map one, then shift click the black and white one, then alt click and drag, and they should end up above the liquify layer here. Now what we need to do still is to clip those to the liquify layer. So control click, create clipping mask. Now anything that we do on this layer will be affected by those. Okay, so now back to the liquify layer, and at this stage we now need to put another mask on here. It needs to be another black mask. So down to the mask button here and click Alt click, and you've got your black mask there. Now in a minute we're going to use the liquify tool, but we need to be clicked onto this rather than the mask when we're doing this. So if you just click on here, and if we now go filter liquify, it should in a minute bring up the liquify box. Okay, so now with this, what we want to do is we want to use the freeze mask here. So click on that. And we want to freeze the part of the face that we don't want to warp. So the brush size I'm using is 100. You can see what works best for you. And just draw over the areas that you want to keep and not to sort of distort when you're liquefying. That's it. Okay. And now we're going to go to the forward warp tool up here and make our brush slightly bigger. Oh, maybe not quite as big as that. And start to actually bring out a little bit bigger. Bring out the hair here and expand this. Like so. Now we can bring that quite far, but obviously we can crop this as well later. So it looks a bit strange at the moment. It will look less strange as you go through the tutorial. Okay, and then OK when you're happy with that. And now we go back onto here, we go onto our black mask, and we're going to start actually brushing into the area that we've just liquefied. Okay, so we're going to bring the density down again so we can see what we're doing here. And we're going to start selecting brushes again and drawing with the brushes into there. Okay, so let's go to the brush tool, which we're on, and just select our smoke brushes again. So I'm going to just see what this one's like here. So just kind of go through them and see what kind of shapes they can give you, and what sort of effect you might want to use. So I'm going to try, let's see, 10 looks quite possible, maybe 12, okay. Now this is definitely too big, so we're going to bring this down in size, okay. And with this you've got to be a bit careful not to go too far to the edge of the liquefied area, otherwise it just looks very artificial. So I'm just going to try to rotate this canvas and play around with this now. Just place this brush on here. Okay, so don't go right to the edge of the liquefy area. And as I said before, if you use different brushes, kind of really spend time doing this carefully. I'm rushing it slightly, so I'm using the same thing, so it's going to look a little bit sort of false. Let's just try maybe using one other different brush to sort of show you what I mean. Okay, so bring the brush palette back out here, and we maybe try a slightly different kind of shaped one, maybe that one. Again, make it smaller. Okay. We'll put that here, maybe. And you can build this up. I think it's quite easy to overdo this if you're not careful. Can you see what's happened here? Where I've gone right to the edge, it sort of cuts that off, and that's going to look a bit strange. So I'm going to just undo that brush there. So try to keep the tip of your brush within that area. Okay. So you hopefully get the idea from this. Now, if you decide that you want to bring back, kind of add to the brushwork on the face layer, you can do that as well here. Okay. Now the ear looks a bit strange there, so we might want to do something about that. Kind of cover that with some brushwork. So you are going to have to spend a little bit of time. Maybe also what I could have done is frozen that ear. So what we'll do now is have a look at what that looks like when we bring the density up, and you'll get the idea a little bit more there. So this does look rather strange here. I'm going to just try and do something about that by selecting the soft round brush again on here and seeing if I can erase some of that there. Okay, so I'm going to put this on black, go back to this initial one and see if we can just do something about that. Sort of darken that area a little bit so it doesn't look quite so strange. So yeah, you are going to have to play around with this, but you get the idea. It doesn't look quite as good as my initial one. It is a bit better. So I think freezing, if the ear is quite prominent,